Annunciation Latin class, Capitulum tredecim, Annus et menses pars prima. And those put macrons over there. In nomine Patris et Filii et Spiritus Sancti. Amen. Ave Maria, gratia plena, Dominus tecum. Benedicta tu in mulieribus, et benedictus fructus ventris tui, Iesus. Sancta Maria, Mater Dei, ora pro nobis peccatoribus, nunc et in hora mortis nostrae. Amen. Okay, so I'm going to start in on chapter 13. I have slides on some of the, the calendarium is the biggie. We probably won't get past that. We probably won't get to the other two tonight, but let's get started on the text itself. Yeah, let's see. Let me make that bigger. There we go. How's that? Annus et menses. Yeah, Teresa, I sent you another email with the smaller one. Most email mailers will not expect files above a certain limit. And I didn't realize the one I sent was above that limit. And so then I resent it with reduced resolution, and it fit. So if
Okay.
you should be able to use that, be able to download that one.
Okay, I'll try again.
Yeah.
I couldn't
Annus
download it either.
in duodecim menses dividitur. Quibus haec sunt nomina? Januarius, mensus primus. Sorry, got interrupted. Februarius secundus, Martius tertius, Aprilis quartus, Maius quintus, Junius sextus, Julius septimus, Augustus octavus, September nonus, October decimus, November undecimus, December mensis duodecimus ac postremus. I hope you don't need too much advanced Latin to follow all that, because essentially the months names, well, we've inherited the Roman calendar, basically. So Januarius, January, Februarius, February, etc. Let's see. December mensis duodecimus ac postremus. Can anybody tell me what postremus means? And for that, you have to unmute your microphone.
So probably like coming after or follow.
Yeah. Postremus is not last. It means following, follows. It can mean the end, in the sense that December is the end, but it's we speak of our posterior, which is our backside. Well, postremus means the end. Or sorry, not the end, but that which follows. Excuse me. Unus annus duodecim menses vel 360 quinque dias habet.
It is duodecim 20 or 12? I'm getting confused even from the very beginning.
Duodecim is duo, 2. Decim,
yeah, decim.
Decem is 10.
10.
So
okay.
yeah, that's how 12. Okay, now
so it's not 2 times 10. It's
no. In fact, okay, I was going to hold off on this, but let's see it. Where'd I put it? I'll find it. Yeah, this is probably going to be an eye test, but anyway, uh, one of the things in this chapter is going to be numbers, okay? And Latin has the cardinal numbers, cardinalia.
Just like English.
These are,
And
counting numbers. Ordinalia, which are order numbers. So if we're counting in English, we say 1, 2, 3, 4. In Latin, we say uno, duo, tres, quattro, quinque, sex, septem. So that's counting numbers or the number of things. Ordinalia is the order of things. So prima or primus, first, secundus, second, tertius, quartus, quintus, sextus, septimus. And so if you look up here, yeah, cardinalia, counting numbers, 1 apple, 2 apples, 3 apples. Ordinalia, first apple, second apple, third apple, fourth apple. Distributiva, I'm not going to go into a lot of detail. They are how things are distributed. So many pieces or so many a piece on each side or multiples. For example, 2 pieces for each person. They have this in the Grammatica Latina section, the one in front, not the one in back. And they have all the numbers there. Right now, just concentrate on the cardinalia and the ordinalia. Eventually, we'll get to the distributiva. They follow English has them as well, but just not as obvious. So anyway, but getting to your question, septem decim. Oh, okay, so we have undecim, 11, duodecim, 12, tridecim, 13, quatuor decim, 14, quindecim, 15, sedecim, 16, septendecim. Eventually we hit 18, duodeviginti. Literally 2 from 20. 20 is viginti. Oh, I'm sorry, that got cut off. Oh, well. So viginti is 20, triginta is 30, quadraginta is 40, etc. So when we say duodecim, it is 2 and 10. If it were 2 from 10, that would be a duodecim, which would be 8, but they never said that. So they say duodeviginti, 2 from 20, which is 18. But right now, you only need to know up to 12 because we have only 12 months. Well, maybe not. Sexaginta is 60. Trecentos, 365 days. Saeculum est centum anni. Centum anni vel saeculum est lonium tempus. 100 years or a century is a long time. Duo saecula sunt ducenti anni, 200 years. So, centum, 100, ducenti, 200, trecenti, etc. And if you go to the that table, let's see where to go. Here it is. Yeah, let's see where we got here. Centum, ducenti, trecenti, quadragenti, quingenti, etc. Octagenti, nonagenti, 900. So basically the 1 through 9, and then a genti or a centum, or centi, depending upon which one it is. Let's see, where was I? Back to here. Duo saecula sunt ducenti anni, homo sanus, nonaginta vel etiam centum annos vivere potest, duocentos annos vivere nemo potest. Is everybody following along? If you have questions about what it means, let me know.
I'm a bit confused.
Okay.
I guess with duo secula,
Oh yeah, duo secula sunt ducenti anni.
Uh-huh.
Oh, all right. The question is what they mean by secula here.
Yes. Because
Okay,
I couldn't
okay.
remember what it
A
actually meant.
saeculum, yeah, saeculum, which is the singular form, saeculum. Uh, if you look up in a dictionary, we'll say an age.
Ah.
Well, what does that mean? Um, it's really an indefinitely, it's a long period of time, somewhat indefinite. For example, we would say the Stone Age, or the Bronze Age, or the Iron Age. Okay, we're talking about a long period of time in that
So
sense.
secula, secularum means ages of ages.
Ages of ages,
A
which
long, really long time.
which means really forever and ever, is really what that means. Now, saeculum can also be a century. And in fact, we see it right here. Saeculum est centum anni. So saeculum, when we're being using the other sense of the word, other than an indefinite long period of time, is a century. So saeculum est centum anni. A century is 100 years. Duo secula, which would be 2 centuries, sunt ducenti anni, or 200 years. So saeculum has a dual meaning, depending upon the context. And when we say, in secula seculorum, we really are saying ages of ages. We're not really saying in centuries of centuries. I suppose you could think of it that way. That would be a long time. But if you look in the dictionary, you'll find saeculum, saeculum, has a double meaning. It can also, oh, by the way, it can also be a generation. As I said, it can be it can be a lifetime. But if you go all the way down here, let's see, where is it here? Yeah, a period of 100 years, a century is one of the other meanings. So
Mhm.
it's a somewhat flexible word, but in
Okay.
this context, they mean 100 years.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm. Okay. Mensi primo et mensi tertio a deis nomina sunt. Januario a deo Janno vel Janus in nominativus. Martio a deo Marti vel Mars in nominativus. Janus et Mars sunt dei Romani. Janus est deus cui due facies sunt. Mars deus belli est. So yes, Janus, or in English, Janus, was the two-faced god, and you may wonder why he had two faces. He was actually the god of portals, entrances, doorways, of beginnings and endings. And so the classical idea of placing him there was he was looking to the past for the old year and then looking forward to the new year. He had no equivalent in Greek, which is kind of interesting. I'm not big on the Roman gods. I don't follow them that closely, but when after Rome conquered Greece, and I don't remember what, I want to say 2nd century BC, maybe somewhere in there. Um, Maybe late third. Um, what happened was is the Greeks had their set of gods and the Romans had their set of gods that were actually distinct. but they basically merged the two mythologies. So I'm sure everybody has heard of Zeus, sort of the head god on Mount Olympus. Well, the Roman equivalent was Jupiter, or we know as Jupiter in English. And so they began kind of mixing up their Mars, the god of war in Greek, is Ares, because he was their god of war. So they kind of mixed up the mythologies between the two. But Janus, or Janus, he never had a Greek counterpart. So he's kind of a unique animal in that respect. So, but getting back. Mensus Septembra nominatur a numero septem. Mensus September nominatur a numero septem. Anybody tell me what that means?
That the month's name comes from the number 7?
Yep.
Seventh
That
month.
reminds me, I think Teresa, we lost. Sophia, yeah, I don't know what happened to her. Oh, well. Yeah, the month September is named after or named by the number 7. October, November, December, ab octo novum decem. So that's actually how that's, from the 7th month, the 8th month, the 9th month, and the 10th month. You say, well, but they're not 8, 9, 10. Well, we'll talk about that next. Nam tempore antiquo Martius mensus primus erat. So in olden times, in fact, a couple centuries before the time of Julius and his family, March was the first month. That was very common in the Mediterranean, was to make March the first month because that was spring. You had the vernal equinox. And by the way, tonight is the summer solstice. So just thought I'd throw that in. So March was the first month. Martius mensus primus erat. Tunc September mensus septimus erat. Martius primus, Aprilus secundus, March, April, May, Maius tertius, Junius quartus, Julius quintus, Augustus sextus, September septimus, October, November, decem, menses, octavus, nonus, decimus, erant. And now we have a new word here, erant. Okay. Up till now, actually, we also had it up there, erat, and it snuck by. See, did we have it anywhere before there? No. All right. Now we finally getting to more forms of the verb to be. We've had est, is, and sunt, are. So now we have erat, was, and erant, was, plural. Oh, there we go. So we're going to start filling in some of the additional tenses here in the next 2 chapters. Nunc autem mensus primus est Januarius, September igitur mensus nonus est, October decimus, November undecimus, December duodecimus. So originally, March was the first month, and that's why September, October, and November were 7, 8, and 9, and 10. Now, I'm going to mention something here. Let's go back here. Okay, the calendarium. I thought I'd throw in a little history here. The church inherited the Roman calendar system and the Roman method of telling time from the first century. This really shouldn't come as any surprise. In fact, pretty much the entire Roman Empire had adopted that calendar, at least in some form. And believe it or not, that method continues today, even in missals and breviaries. If you look at the Roman missal, you will find that the names are in Latin and the structure is the Roman calendar. I thought I'd mention it here because the Roman way of telling time and dates is quite a bit different from our civil calendars.
So that by telling time, are you talking about like the fact that they had the same number of hours in the day?
I'm talking about the time, which is hours in the day, and dates,
Yeah.
which are
Because it's kind of inconceivable that like in the summer an hour would be longer than it would be in the winter because you had the same number of hours in the
yes.
day.
Well, that's
I
the
don't
way
know
it
how
worked.
they I don't know how they figured out what time it was though. I
Oh, that was
suppose
sundials. Sundials.
sundials.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, sundials. And the cool thing about it was they didn't have to worry about daylight savings time. None of this advancing the clock back and forth. Just sort of occurred naturally. Yeah, I'll get to that. But let's start with dates. The early calendars of Mediterranean peoples were lunar based almost invariably, okay? The new moon to new moon, which is called a lunation, is about 29 and a half days or about 1 month, give or take. And that's why months have different lengths to account for this. So you have 1 month of, say, 29 days, and then another month of, say, 30 days, and then one of 29 and one of 30, and that way they would average out. Lunar calendars were really nice because weeks matched the phases of the moon. First week, you had the half moon. Second week, you had the full moon. Third week, you had the half moon again on the other side. And the fourth, you had new moon. So it was a very convenient way to measure time. It was very accurate, by the way. And the Jewish calendar, by the way, was lunar based. Okay. If you go back to the Old Testament, you find that the vernal equinox was the 14th of Nisan, as I recall. And the Jewish calendar is still today lunar based. Now, there's a problem with this in that 29 and a half days does not fit very evenly into the year. If you divide 365 by 29 and a half, you get about 12 months and 11 days. So, and I'm saying 12 months here as like 30, 29 or 30 days in the month to average it out. So one of the things that always happened was keeping the lunar and solar calendars in sync. Many cultures would add a leap month periodically. So you go 3 years, you accumulated 33 days. Well, that's about a month. So let's put in a leap month. The Jewish calendar still does this, by the way. The Romans used to do this prior to the calendar reform of Julius Caesar. And so it was I think it was the Pontifex Maximus who decided when to do that or not. And some pontifexes were, by golly, yeah, they did. But some pontifexes, by golly, said, hey, the calendar has 12 months and that's it. And so in some cases, they got seriously out of whack in the seasons. So, that's one of the motivations behind the reform of the calendar by Julius Caesar. Anyway, the term for that are called the lunisolar calendars. But back to the Roman calendar. Originally, the ancient Roman calendar had only 10 months, Martius through December. And the rest of the year was just winter. It was kind of a strange system. I don't know of a special name for that period offhand. I'll have to see if I can find it. But Martius was the first year of first month of the year, spring. Eventually, they added Januarius and Februarius were added, which made a nice 12 months. And the first year became Januarius. This happened sometime in apparently the 2nd or 3rd century BC. It's a little hard to know from the writings exactly when that happened. Although we do know by the time Julius Caesar came around in the 1st century BC and his revision of the calendar, they were firmly in place by then. And the chapter is going through some of this. Let's see. That we won't do yet. We'll go back to the reading. So any questions there? Okay. Actually, let's see if, let me see if I can find leap month. L-E-A-P, leap, leap over, leap year, leap month. I don't think it, let's see, M-O-N-T-H. Text search, L-E-A-P-M-O-N-T-H. No, I'll have to go back into some ancient history stuff, Teresa, if I have time, and look that up. Here, let's do this. Leap, L-E-A-P. Let's see if saculum. Okay, no, that's not what I want. No. No, that means as in jump. Leap year. Nope. No help whatsoever. Anyway, quam lonius est mensis November. November triginta dies longus est. December unum et triginta dies habet. November triginta dies, December unum et triginta dies. Januarius tam longus est quam December. So notice our tam est quam in there.
Hey, Michael, question.
Yeah.
I find it interesting that they say 1 and 30 instead of 30 and 1. Is that a pretty standard way of doing it? Or
Yes.
can that be
And
flipped around? Or
no.
The Germans do it that way too.
Yeah, there's
Okay.
a lot of Europeans.
21,
Yeah, a lot of
23,
Europeans
so
and
it's
Mediterraneans do it that way.
okay. So
One
the
and
small
two.
number and then the big anchor number.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Yep. Let's see. Januarius tam longus est quam December, sed Februarius brevior est. Duo de triginta, 2 from 30. Okay. 28. Ot un de triginta dies tantum habet. So not only do they do it on the front side, they do it on the back side. But there's a day. Day can mean from. It's one of our prepositions, which, if you remember all its wonderful meanings, from is one of them. Februarius brevior est quam ceteri undecim menses. February is shorter than the other 11 months. Is mensis anni brevissimus est. Okay. This month of the year is the shortest. Martius unum et triginta dies lonius est, et item Maius, Julius, Augustus, October. Item. Item. Quid est item significat? Quid item significat?
Etiam.
Etiam, yes.
I can read the side of the page.
Yeah, and I should say actually et item is etiam. Your teeth may be shot, but at least your eyes are okay. Aprilis triginta dies habet. Item Junius et September. Sex menses sunt de media pars annae, tres menses quarta pars anni. So 6 months are half part a year, de media. 3 months are a quarter part of the year. Any questions there?
All good.
Was that a question?
I was saying I'm all good here.
Oh, okay. All right, let me go back here for a second here. All right. Oh, hold on. Let me look here for a second. Well, I'm getting ahead. Let's see here. I think let's see. Hold on. Yeah, okay. This is getting into the next section. Section 2 ends right here, but I'll go ahead and do it anyway. There are, as I said, okay, the months are no big deal. I mean, we inherited the Roman months, so there's no real stretch of difficulty. But the way the Romans use that month is quite different. There are 3 main days that anchored dates of the Roman calendar. There's Calendae, or calends, and that's where we get the name calendar or calendarium. That was the first day of the month. Okay. So January 1st was Calendae. Calendae Januarius. Okay. Idus was, or Ides, was the middle of the month, more or less. So when the prophet or seer told Julius Caesar to beware the Ides of March, that would have been March 15th, which is roughly the middle of March. It's the 15th of the month in March, May, July, and October, and the 13th elsewhere. Part of it was when Julius Caesar reformed the calendar, he shuffled some of the number of the days in each month around in order to make it come out better. So in the process, the 13th was no longer exactly the middle. None, or nones, from novem, is 9 because it's 9 days before the Ides. So that's the 7th of March, May, June, or sorry, March, May, July, and October, or the 5th elsewhere. And you're going to say, but 15 minus 7 is 8. Mercedonius. Well, intercalarius was a general term for anything that was intercalary.
And that used to happen all the time because the month, their calendar didn't work out very well, and it wouldn't take too many years before the March would be in like December 15th, and it'd be freezing, and only people who cared about what the actual date was called paid any attention. Everybody else just went and planted anyway, but people like Julius Caesar found it irritating that the calendar was always getting out of whack, and so he had a lot of advice and worked out a better calendar. But what they used to do was the Senate would vote, okay, we're adding 5 weeks to the calendar next month.
Right.
And they would fix it for a while.
Yep. And apparently Mercedonius, which I was rather puzzled at because it's from merchant, so payment of wages, but apparently Mercedonius, see, is one long or short? Mercedonius, oh, okay, same word, is the intercalary month. Here, I'll go ahead and paste this into, here we go. There, if you can see it. Yeah, when they say every 2 years, that's an exaggeration. Yeah, as Jenny said, they voted on it, and sometimes they let it in, and other times they didn't. And actually, by the time of Julius Caesar, when he did the calendar reform, in order to get the year back on schedule, he had a year of 445 days. So let's see, that's what, 100? Yeah, so they were almost 3 months out of whack, roughly, when he fixed the calendar.
Yeah, and this happened again when the Gregorian calendar was
right under Pope Gregory.
Yeah, we had to add what, like 2 weeks to the calendar, or take 2 weeks away.
No, it was 11 days.
Yeah, but I've forgotten whether we were 11 days ahead or 11 days behind. I think there are 11 missing days in the calendar that actually aren't there.
Yes.
Which is why you have to be careful of old dates before the introduction of the Gregorian calendar, because if you wanted to use the current calendar, it would not have been the same day.
Yeah, that's why.
Like, say, George Washington's birthday or something.
England, since this was a popish calendar invented by that horrible Pope in Rome in the 1600s, or sorry, 1500, late 1500s, 16th century, England did not adopt that calendar until late 1700s. So if you look up George Washington's birthday, you will find that there are two dates, one under the Julian calendar and one under the Gregorian calendar. So if you ever deal with genealogy and ancient history, good luck, because it was fun. Anyway, but getting back. The other thing the Romans did is they counted down, not up. We count up. So the calends is the first, and the end of the month is the 30th, well, the 30th, 31st, whatever. So countdowns are not original with NASA. The Romans actually invented them first. They counted the days until nones, ides, or calendars, and they counted inclusively, and they started with 1. So today, which is July 20th, is the 12th day before the calends of August. So we count calends of August, that's 1. July 31st, that's 2. July 30th, that's 3. July 29th, that's 4, all the way to 12. And the way you would say this, what is today in Latin? Ante diem duodecimum calendas Julias. Literally the 12th day before the calends of July. And so that
and you said August, but you meant July, right?
Did I say August?
Yes.
July. You sure I said August? I'm going to play that recording back later. Anyway, but yes, before July. And that is that is the key to the odd line I have in the top of my emails. If you ever notice the top of my mail, I had, ante diem something or something, or the idus, or the nones, etc. That is the day using the Roman calendar. And you might say, well, okay, that's very well and good for Julius Caesar, but what does that have to do with me? Well, that calendar is still used. Oh yeah, well, we'll talk about that in the text. So, and then here are the names. Let's actually skip to this part. Here we go. Here is an extraordinary form breviary. And I don't know can people see that? Let me zoom in a little bit. That might make it easier. It's probably a little small. Here we go. There we go. You see Quidie, Edibus, and then they're counting down. And then you see the calends. This is the Roman calendar. Okay.
Yeah, I've seen that. I just didn't register.
Now don't worry about some of these other things. This has to do with the lunar cycle. This has to do with the Sunday. We can discuss that some future time if you want to, but the DM is essentially what our date is. So the 13th, the 14th, the 15th. So June 1st is the calends of June. Okay. So we come down here, 19th. Oh, here's the 20th. There we go. So you see, here's the 12th. So that's why I said that was the Undecim. And it's the feast of Saint Silverus, Pope, and Silverius, sorry, Pope and Martyr. And you may say, oh, well, that's still just the old, the extraordinary form. Well, that's actually not true. If you go to, okay, here's a reprint of the extraordinary form missal from 2007. Same thing. And if you go to, oh, I don't have it. Oh, I'm sorry. This one here is from the Liturgia Horarum. This is the modern ordinary form one. I skipped over it. Let me zoom in here, but you'll see the same sequence of things. See the calends, 4, 3, Pridiae. Pridiae is the day before nones or Ides. And then they count down, and then they count down, etc. I skipped the Pridiae. We'll hear about it in a moment. So even in the Latin liturgical books, you will see this form. And so, I mean, you don't really have to know about it today so much. We have modern calendars. But if you ever come across an old prayer book like I have, and I have them going way, way, way back, this is the sort of thing that you will see. And so that's why I bring that up. Let's see here. Where did I leave off? Oh, yeah. Where did I leave off? Oh, right here. Tres menses quarta pars anni. Any questions on the year so far? You don't have to really know. They'll talk later about the calends and the Ides here in a minute, but that'll be next time. We're going to go on to time, as in the hours of the day. Nope. All right. Dies est dum sol in cielo est. The day is while the sun is in the sky. Prima pars diei est mane. The first part of the day is mane, or morning. Pars postrema vesper. Dies est tempus amane ad vesperam.
Can you break down postrema for me?
Postrema is follows. The part that follows excuse me. The part that follows is Vespers. So in other words, the first part of the day is morning. The part that follows is Vespers.
I thought Vespers were like evening, late afternoon, evening.
Yeah.
So they're kind of lumping everything after morning into the Vesper period.
Well, no. Postrema means Vespers follows at the end of the day.
Okay, so not just after morning, but postrema meaning the end of.
Yeah, the end of the train.
Like the posterior is the behind part of the back. Okay, gotcha. All right. Thank you.
Dies est tempus amane ad vesperam. The day is from morning to evening. Nox est tempus a vespero ad mane. Night is the time from evening to morning. Vesper est finis diei atque initium noctis. Mane finis noctus est atque initium diei. Well, that's true no matter who you are. Now, what's interesting is dies in duodecim horas dividitur. Okay, well, that's the same as us, sort of. Says the day is divided into 12 hours. Ap hora prima dies initium facit, hora sexta, quae hora media est inter hora primam et duodecimam. Meridies nominatur. Okay, so this is a sundial, sort of. And the first hour of the day is prima, okay? Hora prima, the first hour. Secunda, tertia, quarta, etc., duodecima. So they had 12 hours, like we do during the day, but the first hour was at sunrise, and the 12th hour ended at sunset. And so this was very convenient because you could put a sundial down, you would put a little post here, and the shadow of the sun would point to what hour it was.
So their quote hours were longer in the summertime then.
Yes. So their hours changed length.
Yes, exactly.
Now, you might say, oh, that's horrible. To the modern, mind, where we have probably, where we have atomic clocks and we strive to synchronize our watches and cell phones to them down to really the second. This may seem sort of a foreign concept, but in reality, see, anybody could have a sundial. Okay, they weren't super expensive. And you could say, hey, I will meet you at the third hour in the forum. And you would know exactly when that was, okay? It was really quite useful. And you say, well, the hours were longer in the summer than they were in the winter. Well, okay, think about it. Suppose suppose you worked from, say, 3 to, let's say, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Oh, let's say you worked 3 to 10 on the sundial, that is. That would be during daylight hours, okay? And in the winter, you would still work 3 to 10, but the day was shorter. And so you didn't have, you didn't have light like we do at any, we didn't have they didn't have electric lights. They had torches, of course, and candles. But if you worked outdoors, especially if you worked in the fields or you were building or, any one of a number of activities, you needed that daylight. So the workday was actually set up as a natural flow of summer and winter. And so you worked when the sun was at a certain position, and you went to bed and you stopped when the sun was in a certain position. And it's just that sometimes it took longer and sometimes it took shorter. But over the course of the year, it would kind of average out to what our hour is today. So it was a very natural system. It's totally worthless for physics because we need, we need very fine and equal sized times. But for the first century, well, really for the many centuries, this was very adequate. So
How
anyway,
would you How would you tell the time at night? Like when it was dark out?
Oh, you'd light a candle.
And then what?
Ah, I'm
You say,
crushed.
hey, it's dark outside.
That joke fell stone flat. Darn. Oh well, I'm crushed. Actually, okay. It would be known by the position of the stars, actually. They would know what constellations would be rising at sunset and would be and likewise when sunrise is what constellations were overhead. They typically, even though let's see, do they talk about it here? Yeah, even though its night was technically divided into 12 hours, it was actually divided into um, four watches. Well, no, they divided the nighttime into four quarters. Okay, which would of course been about 3 hours. And so they would, yeah, they no, they wouldn't have been astronomers. They would have known that, hey, at midnight, such and such a constellation is overhead. They were very much in tune with the constellations. Okay.
And it was a lot easier because, yes, I think, Teresa, they did have water clocks, but they would be very expensive.
Well, they were
Um,
also, yeah,
the thing
they're
about,
also,
they
yeah,
didn't have to deal with all the light pollution that we do. So every day, I mean, every night, they would be seeing, unless it was overcast, they'd be seeing a beautiful sky.
and the water clocks were not movable. And the water clocks would be more of an amusement, really, than a practical. It took centuries before clocks really became useful. They also had candles that would burn, that would take, that would burn over the night, and they could mark, hey, this candle is this long, and it will burn down to here by the morning. And so they could light candles and say when half the night was through. So there were a lot of different ways they could do it. Um, so anyway, but back to the sun.
Sophie had a question.
Yeah. Oh, what is a water clock? Okay. All right. The Romans were well aware, well, actually, all the Mediterranean civilizations were well aware that an hour in the summer was longer than an hour in the winter. Okay. Um, they knew that very well because they did have things that, for example, you had candles that were standard sizes. And so in the summer, if this candle burned, or like in the evening, for example, towards sunset, they could see that, hey, all of that candle burned and there was still some hour left, or partially burned, etc. So they very well knew. And so a water clock was an attempt to produce a mechanical device that kept equal hours. Okay. And just for the heck of it, I will do, I think, whoops, nope, nope, nope. Let me do a new private tab here. There we go. And I will put in water clock, and you can see what one of these things looks like. Oh, let's see. Oh yeah, here's a good one. So they would fill up. In fact, you know what a sand glass is, right? How it's got the little, the two bulbs on each end,
Mhm.
and the sand drips. Yeah, here's one up here. There we go. You know what a sand clock looks like, right?
Yes.
You mean hourglass?
Hourglass,
Yes.
sorry. Well, these are hourglasses because they last an hour. Okay. But they had the same thing for 12 hours. They had this funnel thing that they would fill up and it would drip into the pan here. And so when the first hour was up, the level would be here, the second, the third, and all the way down. There were a bunch of different schemes. Some of them actually, this is perhaps the simplest. Let's see, is this an example? Here's another one that dripped, and depending upon the weight, the hands would move around. So yeah, the thing to do would be to look those up on the Wikipedia. There were let's see here. There were, see if there's
it had to be pretty big, right?
Yeah, there we oh, the clepsydra, yes. It had various ways that as the water dripped, it would show the time. So
yeah, some of them were quite complicated but they could be as simple as water dripping at a constant rate into a bucket, and you got to know, you could mark on the bucket, roughly as the hours would go by, then you could use it as a clock.
Yeah. The difficulty with the water clocks was
for that time of year anyway.
The difficulty with the water clocks is anybody could have a sundial, okay? Not everybody could have a water clock. We'll just leave it at that for the moment. Dies in duodecim horas dividitur. Ab hora prima dies initium facit, hora sexta, quae hora media, est inter horam primum et duodecim. Okay. Meridies nominatur. Hora sexta vel meridies diem dividit in duas equas partes, ante meridium et post meridium. Where have you heard those terms before? Ante-meridium, post-meridium.
AM and PM?
AM and PM, yes. That's exactly what they mean. And the meridium means the half point in the day, okay? Now, to be fair, with the sundial clock, that was always true. With our equal hour clocks, where we've defined seconds, minutes, and hours to be of equal length, that, of course, is no longer true. Is anybody familiar with the analemma?
What?
I am, but man, it's been a long time.
The analemma?
No.
I'm amongst pagans and heathens. Well, not pagans anyway. I guess that's not true. You wouldn't be here if you were a pagan. Well, I don't know, you might. Okay, the analemma. I hope that's how it's spelled. Yeah, there it is. Okay, and let me get a nice image of the analemma. All right, if you took a picture of the sun each day at exactly the same time, this is the path the sun would trace out in the sky. In the winter, it would be at the lowest point because the sun is at a lower point. And at the summer, it would be at the highest point.
So, yeah, it would be at the lowest because it was a shorter day in the winter.
Yeah. So, as a result, sometimes the sun is ahead of the clock sometimes the sun is behind our clock. And so in the case of the sundial, well, that's not true. It's when, you know, that line is always when the sun is at its highest point, period, you know, done. And so they started measured with respect to meridium, antemeridium, AM, and postmeridium, or PM. Meridie sol altissimus in cielo est. At noon, the sun is in the highest in the sky. That's true for sundials. Sex horae sunt de media pars die. In fact, right now, the sun is about 22 minutes. Oh, I forgot whether it's 22 minutes ahead or 22 minutes behind noon. I think it's 22 minutes behind. And so that actual noon is like 12:30, not noon. And then you throw in daylight savings time. And so the sun is actually overhead closer to about 1:30 p.m. than it is actual noon. But in Roman times, when they're all, and when we used sundials, then meridies was high noon. Let's see. Oh, and it was in the highest point of the sun. Sex horae sunt media pars die. There are 6 hours that are in half a day. Nocte sol, oh, we're in the next section. Okay. Well, we'll leave it there for that. So anyway, yeah, read through this. Not a huge amount of new grammar in this section, okay? We are going to get a couple of things. If you go back to, let me go ahead and close that. And let me go to chapter content. And if we go to Latine Disco, I see I timed out. And come on. Let's go, reload. Ah, there we go. We've had the fourth and fifth declensions. We had those in the last, chapter 12. They will go through the first, second, third, fourth declensions. Those are in the notes from last time. All the tables, really get those down, because we now have the way to decline all of the regular nouns. There's not a huge number of irregular nouns. There are some that mane, morning, is indeclinable. So the accusative form is mane, the dative form is mane, the ablative form is mane, the vocative form is mane. So it's easy. The names of the months are adjectives, okay? But they're often used without the word month. So let's see. Time when. Okay, now this is new grammar, the ablativus temporis. We will use the ablative to tell when. Is it plural? Yeah, plural is mane. Yeah, just morning. Yeah, in fact, we can tell you what, let's look it up. M-A-N-E. There it is. And notice that there is no, I can't see what the declension is. See, indeclinable. Yeah. Excuse me. And it's both used as a noun and as an adverb. So I guess the Romans figured that it was too hard to remember how to do grammar that when they first got up. So yeah, exactly. So something easy there. So let's see, the tempus ablativus. Whoops, where was I? Oh, yeah, you use the ablative of when, but how long is expressed by the accusative. Centum annos vivere, to live for 100 years. Okay. Latin numerals, not a big deal, but they're all new. Now we're going to start the past tense. All right, that is something that is actually new. And then comparisons, we've had the comparisons, altior, longior, longius, but now we have the superlatives, which are issimus, so longissimus, lonissimus, yeah, there we go, lonissimus, lonissima, lonissimum. That's new, but again, not so bad. So read through that a bunch of times and see if you can, you know, get the hang of what they're saying there. Let's see what else. Trying to think if there's anything else in mind. Let me just look at the slides here. Anything that comes to mind. I'm not going to do the comparative and the superlative tonight. That you're going to run into those next time. Yeah. So I guess that's it for now. So, try and get caught up with the homework. I am virtually caught up. I have a couple of chapter 13 exercises I need to grade that Laura submitted, but otherwise I'm all caught up there. So do try your hand at them. It will help. And the other thing I wanted to mention, and actually this was a question. I have here, I think this is showing up. Yep. I have here an enormous table. Here's the index. So let's say you wanted to know the first declension nouns that end in A, and you click there, and here is an example of the first declension nouns, okay? And guess what follows? The second declension, U-S-E-R-I-U-E-U-M. I'm inclined to start sending this out instead of me putting all of these in. Well, I may copy and paste these into the keynote, but these tables are very tedious, and I'm just wondering what people would prefer. The advantage to the giant file, well, the advantage to the giant file is they're all there, okay? So instead of spread over various notes, and I don't have to keep making the notes longer and longer as we add stuff. The downside is I don't want to scare you because there's a lot of stuff in here you haven't had. Not so much with the adjectives, but the verbs. Let's see, let's get to the verbs. Come on, verbs. Okay, pronouns, interrogative, you've had those. Here we go. First conjugation, ARE verbs. You have only had the present tense, and you've had the singular and the plural, third person. So amat and amant. You've also had the passive, amatur and amantur. You have not had the first or second person. You have not had the imperfect. You have not had the future. You have not had the perfect, the pluperfect, the future perfect, nor have you even had the subjunctive. And I'm not even going to describe what the subjunctive is right now. We'll get to it eventually because it is an important function. But the nice thing about it is the tables are all there. So if you want to refer to them, there they are. So which would you guys prefer? One nice, giant, perhaps terrifying PDF?
I'd rather have it all in one because it's so hard to find what I need when I end up with multiple files.
Okay.
Yeah, I like the big file.
Okay. 2 votes for the big file.
3.
3 votes for the big file. Okay, that's Francis. That's a majority. So it is. Okay. That'll be easier on me. And by the way, I started this myself oh boy, I don't know how long ago. And really what I did was for the conjugations, okay, to keep them straight. And then I said, well, I got the conjugations here. I really ought to add the adjectives. So then I added or the nouns, and I added that. And I said, well, I got the nouns. Now I should add the adjectives. And so anyway, I've slowly been adding to it. And then when we came on something that I did not have in here, when we came that we came upon in class, I said, I need to do this just so I have it straight in my mind. And so then I added that. So I will add to this as we get things that are not in this PDF. This PDF is by no means all inclusive. For example, I have not added any of the I haven't added a table of prepositions, some that use the accusative, some that use the dative. I probably should add something like that. I do not have any of the numbers in here. I really want to add the numbers because even I have hard time keeping track of what the exact form for the various numbers are. When I read it, I know which one it is, but when I'm trying to remember it the other way, I forget it. So, okay, I will do that then. All right, and with that, it is close enough to 9 o'clock. Are there any? Okay, we will continue on with part 2. I will mention that part 2, let's see here, chapter content. Okay, part 2 gets a little more complicated. We talk about the night, the day, the moon, etc. But eventually we are going to talk about Die mensis primus calendae nominatur. The first day of the month is called the calends. Dies primus mensis Januari dicitur calendae Januariae. Okay, blah, blah, blah. And then we're going to say dies tertius decimus post calendas, the 13th day after calends, idus nominatur, or the Ides. Idus Januariae dies tertius decimus. That's what I was alluding to in the notes. So I've kind of given you a fair warning. I may or may not do, I probably won't. The Romans, I don't know if you want to call them religious or superstitious or a little of both. Their calendar had a lot of special days in it that had to do with religious observance. Not too different from ours in that regard, I guess. There were days you didn't do work.
Those are the feriae.
Yeah, the feria and on and on and on. And it evolved. That's the other problem, is that it evolved over the what? Oh, gee, let's see. We start Rome and the founding in what, 730? No, 728 BC. I've forgotten now. And then the fall in the West in the 5th century. I mean, things evolved over there. So probably not going to go into that much detail. After all, we're trying to learn Latin. But I think it's important that you get an appreciation for how they tell time so that when you see something, like this in the breviary, you have an appreciation for what it is. If I were to find, I don't have it. I'll have to dig it up. I will dig up a manuscript from, I don't know, the Middle Ages sometimes, and they generally did not have the numbers here. Okay, those were often omitted. So they stuck with the old Roman calendar. Sometimes they did. Sometimes they put in numbers in there. but it's useful if you're dealing with any liturgical material. And really, this calendar in here is quite remarkable. I don't want to spend too much time on it, but just for the heck of it. LD, litera DAE, the day letter. So if it's an A year, then you know that that is a Sunday. If it is a B year, you know that that was the Sunday. If it was a C year, you know that was the Sunday, D, E, F, G. And the cycle repeated 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, what is it, 9? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Oh, I'm sorry, there's only 7. Yeah, the cycle repeated itself. And so this is actually a perpetual calendar. The church has had perpetual calendars for millennia. So this calendarium is accurate for many, many, many years. The cycle, the epact has to do with the phases of the moon. And you may say, well, what has that got to do with anything? Well, what feast is determined by the phase of the moon?
Easter.
Easter, exactly. And one of the things that the monasteries were very good at is recording the position of the sun and the moon every single day of the year. So they were very sensitive to changes and a number of other things. And they were very much early astronomers measuring the motions of the heavens. And this allowed them to date when Easter was. And there's actually a table for this. I might throw that in next time. We'll see. So anyway, and if you read in scripture, now some of the more modern translations, okay, back here, let me go back here to, and let's go back to, okay, let's go back to the first one. If you, whoops, I missed it by one. If you read an older translation, they will say something about the third hour of the day. They're referring to the sundial. Now, what you'll see in many translations is they'll say something like 9 a.m. or something like that. They'll attempt to translate that into a modern frame of reference, which is fine, But all of the references in the Vulgate to hours of the day are based on this 12-hour day starting at 1 and ending at noon. So, this is something that's relevant to the liturgy and reading. Okay, next question. How many have heard of the Liturgy of the Hours or the Divine Office?
I have.
I've heard of it.
Good.
Me
What
too.
are the names of the hours?
Ooh. I wasn't prepared for that question.
Yeah, I know. Okay, well, there's lauds, right?
Yes.
Laudes.
And there's matins.
Prima.
Mm-hmm. And
Or
sext.
terce, tertia.
Mm-hmm.
Nones.
Vespers?
Sexta.
Is Vespers part of it?
Yes, those are the hours of the day. Okay, terce was 3 or mid-morning. Sexta, 6 was afternoon, and then nones was at 9 or mid-afternoon. the way we get the word noon today is from the word nones, because it was common practice. Okay, monks and religious and clergy were required by canon law under the pain of serious sin to recite or participate in some fashion in the divine office or the liturgy of the hours. And so what happened is they started to, the practice became common to do the hour ahead of time, just in case. And so the word noon, which we get for 12, actually comes from the word nones, which comes from the office at 9, but they would say it at noon just to be sure that something didn't happen and they didn't get to say the hour. So again, you're going to see this thing kind of appear all over the place. And then what's the evening office?
Vespers?
Vespers. Oh, what's the Latin word for vesper, for evening? Yeah. Vesperum, or actually, sorry, it's just vesper. It's a neuter word, vesper, vesperum. So again, you know. And by the way, my grandfather's name was Burton Vesper Finney. I have no idea why they named him. Well, actually, no. Vesper is a family name that I see in various names in my ancestors, but I'm not sure why. Maybe one of them was born in the evening. I don't know how they got that name, but anyway, enough. So next time, read through this. It's not difficult grammatically. It will be a challenge because of the vocabulary. We have a ton of new words, but they're going to be new words you're going to see over and over again. And I'll leave it at that. Any last minute questions before we sign off? Questions are half off right now, good for limited time only. Next week, I'll charge you triple. None? Okay. Let's mute everybody. Oratio finalis. In nomine Patris, et Filii, et Spiritus Sancti. Amen. Pater noster, qui es in celis, sanctificetur nomen tuum. Adveniat regnum tuum. Fiat voluntas tua, sicut in cielo et in terra. Panem nostrum quotidianum da nobis hodie. Et dimitte nobis debita nostra, sicut et nos dimittimus debitoribus nostris. Et ne nos inducas in tentationem, sed libera nos a malo. Amen. So with that, I will stop the recording.